As a Blender artist, I've always been told that Houdini is the best 3D application. So I had to try it out myself just to see if that's true. And I got myself an indie license for $265 a year. And to be fair, this is nearly what I usually spend on Blender because nowadays you have to buy a few add-ons to get it to function the way you want, to improve your workflow and speed it up, because Blender lacks a lot of functionality that usually comes with most applications. So yeah, I tried Houdini and I think I am sold at it. I'm very likely going to be including Houdini in my workflow since I've already paid for a 1-year license. I'm hoping to be using it in conjunction with Blender for things that are usually harder to do in Blender. So let me show you how it works. Now, I've always heard that Houdini is quite hard, but for someone who is new at this, I've found it quite simpler than they made it seem. So, and I guess it's likely because of my geometry nodes experience. If you have some experience with geometry nodes, you're going to find Houdini quite easy. And let me show you how easy it is to do things that can be tough in Blender. So let's create a wall and fracture it. Houdini works in these things called containers. So for example, if say we have a cube, if you enter it in edit mode, basically you are inside a different container than when you are outside object mode. And that's the same case with Houdini. So for example, if I wanted to create a cube, I can right click and add and search for cube. Basically, I'm in the object mode of that cube or box, but I can enter edit mode. I'm just speaking in Blender terms. So if I tab into that, I'm now in edit mode. So I can access the faces, the vertices, and let me just turn them on here. So if I wanted to select that, I can select the vertices, the edges, and even faces. But like in Blender, where you can go inside edit mode and add other objects, like let's say a torus like this, you can do the same inside this context window, or what Houdini calls the geometry container. So I can do a lot of stuff, and what I want to do is fracture this object. And in Houdini, there are several ways you can do this. You can use the RBD material fracture node, and it will just do everything for you, set up everything for you, and you can see now everything is fractured. And I can even look at the individual pieces by using an explode node. Just don't try to figure out what every node does, or what I'm actually doing here. Just try to understand the concept behind this. You can see that it's not that different from Blender, and in some cases it might even be easier. Yeah, you can see that with just 3 nodes, I've set up something like this, and I can even quickly do a rigid body simulation here. So I'm just going to first move these points above the ground, so I can even just come here and add a transform node, basically what we use in geometry nodes, and just transform this up. I'll just translate this up a bit, just like that. And let me get rid of this explode node, and what I want to do is convert this into a rigid body system. Now, Houdini, you have to first assemble the pieces to turn them into something that is easier to calculate. So I'm going to do that quickly here, and then add an RBD solver, an RBD bullet solver. And now if I hit play, you can see the cube is collapsing. And if I want, I can add a ground in the settings here. So collisions, ground plane, hit play, and that's it. You can see with just how many nodes here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think it's very self-explanatory. The only thing that I think that might need to be explained a bit would be this assemble, but that's something you can quickly do a Google search about. If you know geometry nodes, this is going to be very, very easy. And if you don't know geometry nodes, I already have a course about geometry nodes in Blender. And I think I'll be starting to integrate some Houdini workflows on the channel because I know that a lot of you are trying to become professional VFX artists, and you have to know Houdini to be that. Blender is really not enough for more advanced jobs. So yeah, if you want to just spice up your VFX experience, this is something that could be fun. And let me show you something else. So now this is not a Houdini tutorial. I'm just showing off the power of Houdini and how easy it is to use. Now, most people who say that Houdini is really complicated are usually trying to build really, really complex things, and it can be that complicated. But if you're trying to do simple things, you're going to find Houdini quite easy to use. It's until when you try to create complex procedural workflows, complex systems, complex solvers, that's when it becomes really difficult. Let me show you something here, another thing here. Houdini comes with these test geometries. So I'm just going to search for test geometry. I will use this capybara because it comes with some animation. And whenever you add any node, you'll see that they have these lines here, or segments that just notations for different things. So if you are previewing something, for example, this cube tree here we created, to preview the final results, you click on the node itself, or that last segment, and that will be the active view. So if I click on this, it will bypass everything below it in the tree. So now that if I play, it doesn't do anything because I'm not previewing the RBD solver. So if I do that, then I can preview the RBD solver. So I want to preview the test geometry, so I can just click on this and it will display this. Now it's also showing the cube because I have it selected here. So I'm just going to select the node, so that is the only thing that I'm looking at. Now this capybara has some animation to it, but when I play back, it doesn't show. Houdini is a procedural workflow, so everything is tied within nodes. So there is a bond deformer node. You just have to know the most useful nodes, and then it becomes really, really easy. It's like learning geometry nodes. You can't use geometry nodes without knowing some basic nodes, and then you can mix them to create a lot of different things. So I'm just going to search for the bond deform node, and when I do that, you can see I get the playback, and you can see it's playing back way faster because Houdini has this thing where it tries to play back your viewport as fast as it can. It's not playing it in real time, it's playing it faster than real time, as long as it can. But if you want to preview in real time, you just click on this button here. I want to give this forward movement because right now it's just moving in one space. So I'm just going to use a transform node, which is self-explanatory. I'll preview that. And every node has gizmos. If you click on this show handle button, it will show you those gizmos. So we are looking at the transform node, so that's why we're seeing a transform gizmo. Now I just want to animate this forward, and every node, when you select it, you see all the parameters associated with that. So I can just keyframe these translate parameter. Now I'm going to keyframe this forward, so let me out click, move ahead, just like that, and select keyframe. Yeah, it's a bit sliding, but yeah, I can change the interpolation by just clicking on the curve editor, and basically the same things we see in Blender, because Blender also has a graph editor. So it's similar to what Houdini uses, and there is these interpolation buttons. So I want it to be straight so that there isn't that slowing down. So yeah, I think. So what I wanted to do is give this guy a cape, go to the top. Now I'm going to use a curve node, just like this, have it selected and activated, and I will go into this draw mode so that I can draw the cape I want. I'll go to top here and just do something like that. So now I have that. I have my plane. I also want to see my capybara. So Houdini has this template thing. So if you click on the second segment, you can see a wireframe or a template or a ghost version of your render. So this is not the active node, it's just something I'm using to preview. So I can go back to the curve, and I have this curve. I'm going to transform it up. So transform, basically, you can see I'm using nearly the same nodes. If you understand just a few nodes, it's going to be very, very easy. And I don't think I have to explain what the curve node does. It's just used to draw a curve. I'm going to translate this up. That would be on the Y. Make sure that it's the active node and move it about there. Now I can add a VUM solver, which is basically the solver used to create simulations for cloth, dust, particles. It's a really, really powerful solver. It's way better than a Blender cloth simulation system. I'm not going to explain this too much, but you just have to understand that this is what is used for creating cloth. So I'm going to add a cloth config and then a VUM solver. This first node is used to set up the cloth itself, and then the VUM solver is the system that calculates and animates the cloth. So I'm going to take a look at that and playback. It falls as expected. Let's go to the solver and turn on ground and turn on the ground so that we have a ground surface, and take a look at that. Now we don't have enough subdivisions in this. We want it to be subdivided enough to have more wrinkles like what we would expect in Blender. So I'm going to come back here, and there is a remesh. There is a remesh node that can remesh the mesh, and I can change the resolution, and perfect. Now I'm going to also use my capybara as, let me just put it on the left here, use it as my collision. And yeah, this node here has an option to add colliders into it. So I'm just going to connect this, and you can see this is using the collision geometry. And I'm also going to transform this just a bit forward, so that it can collide with the capybara. And look at that. Now we want this to be attached to the capybara like a cape. So there is a VUM attached to geometry node, and I can just add it in between these, and it will get connected. Now I just have to find the points I want this to connect to. First, I'm going to go back to my transform and push this back. Now you can let me know in the comments how difficult you think the things we have done here so far are, because I don't think they are that difficult. If you have some experience with Blender and some geometry nodes, everything we're doing here isn't that complicated. So if you can create something like this, imagine what else you can create. This VUM Attach node is very self-explanatory. It's attaching your VUM object to any geometry, and our VUM object is this cloth simulation. So now we just have to select this node and take a look at it. Now it's asking us the type of geometry or group that we want to attach, and we want to use the points. And to select the points we want, you can click on this select node, and it will take you in this selection mode, and you can select the nodes you want, the points you want to select. So I'm just going to select this and hit enter, and the indices of those vertices are going to be stored in here. It's basically like creating a vertex group in Blender. Now if we scroll down, you'll see that we have a target geometry. So basically, what object do you want to attach your cloth to? And it also has the selection node, and you just have to go to the geometry. It will just take you into this geometry selection node, and I'm just going to select a few points. I'll go into point selection and just select a few of these and hit enter. And now if you go back to the VUM Attach, take a look at that. You can see how this is connected. Okay, you can see you can see how easy that is. Obviously, this is just to show you how simple Houdini can be, and everything you do here can be exported into Blender quite easily if you have the indie version. You can let me know in the comments how difficult you think what we have done here is, and what was the most confusing part of this, and do you still think that Houdini is that difficult? Again, if you have some basic understanding of geometry nodes, Houdini is really easy, and I would encourage you to use it in your workflow. And I'm going to be playing some videos of some Houdini demos just to show you how powerful Houdini is, and how adding it to your workflow is really important.